We have covered the issues, the ongoing saga last year of the city of Tshwane very closely on the State of the Nation. We dealt with the fall of the DA-led coalition under Mayor Cilliers. Brink had him in the studio many times. We spoke to quite a lot of the people who were involved at the time. There was a lot of unhappiness and a lot of name-calling. But time moves on. Leadership did change in the city of Tshwane. And very pleased to say that today, joining me on the State of the Nation is the Executive Mayor of the city of Tshwane, Dr. Nasiphi Moya. Dr. Moya. I'm going to call you Nasiphi.
Nasiphi is perfect, yes.
Because, you know, I'm old.
Yeah, but also it's my name.
It is your name.
Yes.
Yeah, you can call me Michael or Mike or
Mike.
anything. Michael was when my mother was angry with me.
Really?
Yeah,
you
then
think
I
it's
knew
going
it
to
was-
be the other way around?
We'll see how we go.
Yeah,
When
but
we-
also one of my favorite human being is Mike. I call him Mike. He's Michael, but I call him Mike. Yes.
Well,
so that
must be a nice guy.
I don't, you've had him
right.
here, so I'm not sure.
Oh, really?
Yes, Michael Bowman.
Oh, Michael. Oh,
Yes.
yes. We've had him here plenty. Michael. So, you are now the Executive Mayor in the city of Tshwane, doing an energetic job, there is no doubt, and doing some wonderful interviews. Congratulations. I like your communication strategy. It's really working for you.
Thank you, Mike. I would like to hear what you think my communication strategy is,
No,
by
that
the
you
way.
speak to people.
Okay,
Right?
no,
And
that,
you're
I can
approachable
confirm
because,
that.
Yeah, because, you know, for example, there's not enough, I don't know, motivation in the world that we get the Johannesburg mayor to sit down for an interview, for example. Right, so he's got a communication of run away. Obviously, if you don't have a good story to tell, don't tell your story. But let's focus on the city of Tshwane.
Yes, please.
There was a lot of controversy about your rise, your ascendancy to mayor from deputy mayor. Suddenly, the coalition that you were involved in, according to many people in your party, including our friend Mike and your leader, Mr. Mashaba, was suddenly the worst coalition ever. And everything was wrong. How bad was the coalition that you found yourself as deputy mayor?
Well, it was a coalition that did not respond to all what we were looking for as Action SA.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, obviously, we've documented our displeasures and we used all the mechanisms that were available to us. But when we were campaigning in 2021, we had key promises that we made to communities based on our manifesto and based on what we believe in. And you get into a coalition, one of those priorities was the issue of the Hamanskraal water. So this is now 2021. We started with former Mayor Williams. And the amount of fighting we had to put in just to get the issue of Hamanskraal water prioritized by the administration, including the forensic report and everything. And so it was not a coalition where it was smooth, that if you want anything, that will be done. So that was one. The other thing that we're a pragmatic party. We don't have an ideology. We're not calling ourselves liberals or capitalists or whatever, communist.
Not anymore, anyway. You used to, but you don't.
Yes. We always say service delivery to the people. And when we started, when we negotiate even budgets and say, can we focus on all areas? We've got residents that are crying, especially in the townships and informal settlements. And the priority was just not going there. And so for us, that was the basis in which we said, but this is not the best coalition. But it also happened during it, there's context to it, that the push to leave was intensified after the elections. After the Moonpeg shot saga that happened, the elections, and there was so much that was happening that each and every party after the elections had to think about its survival. And Action SA did.
Right, so there's a lot to pick up on just there. This Royval water treatment plant has been a convenient scapegoat for everybody. Right? Water is a national competency. Who stuffed up the water plant, the Royval water treatment plant?
So we're taking it back to 2004.
Right. So it goes all the way back to 2004.
Yes.
And along the way, it's been used as a rod for the back of the DA ever since. Right? So even though the ANC broke it, even so though the ANC never fixed it, even though the ANC run the Department of Water, somehow this always gets pinned on the DA. Explain to me how that works.
Okay, so let's just separate the issues. 2004, there's an issue with the treatment plant itself. There's neglect of that asset, that it didn't get the required repairs and maintenance that it required.
It doesn't come out of the ANC playbook by any chance, but anyway.
And it needed to be upgraded.
Yes.
And remember, all these years, there's pollution that is happening to the
Yes.
Apis River. And so it's not that it's a new issue.
Yes.
Then in the lead up to 2016, I know it was one of the issues that the DA campaigned on and said, we will fix it. Because obviously it was so glaring at the time. I just want to deal with the issue of competency.
You were a member of the DA at the time.
Yes.
Right.
No, I was working for the
Working
DA
for
at
the
the
DA.
time, yes. Remember, when you're talking competencies, there's a part that national government must play, but also in terms of the constitution, local government must provide basic services which include water. So through the assets which are reservoirs and treatment plants, the municipality must make sure that water goes to the people. So the issue of the Royval wastewater treatment plant, that's a competence of the city of Tshwane, not of the national government.
But if it's not working, then they can't.
Yes, they must. And also the issue of making sure that we don't pollute the rivers, which, I mean, they take us to court every second month because of that. But anyway, so I think when it became a DA issue, because it was one of the priorities to say we will prioritize the issue of
12 years that the ANC are in charge after the treatment plant broke. It becomes a DA issue when they assume the mayoralty, when they get the mayoralty in a coalition for the first time in 2016.
Well,
so 12 years that the ANC did nothing, basically, right? And eventually relinquished the mayoral chains. Now the DA have to pick it up.
Well, you inherit the good and the bad.
Yes.
I've done the same.
Yes.
I've inherited it, even though it starts in 2004. It's me now who's being blamed for not providing clean water to Hamanskraal. That's just how it works. So then I think where it got maybe national attention is then when there was a tender that was supposed to refurbish the Royval wastewater treatment plant. Then that got stuffed up. I think that's when then it got, the issue got national attention.
Right.
Maybe that's why it looks like only the DA is being blamed for that. Maybe because of that.
So they,
because
did
of
they stuff up the tent, giving it to the ANC's favourite tenderpreneur?
Well, it was given to Edwin Sodi and Company.
Yes.
And
by the
so,
DA?
Yeah, it was under the DA administration. And
so the DA said, good idea, we're going to give it to the ANC's backer.
To that JV that they appointed.
Yes.
Yes. And
so
then,
did they not do their homework, or did they suddenly think that Edwin Sodi was okay?
So based on what we know now,
Yeah.
based on the forensic report that Action SA called for, and based on the disciplinary process, the officials, because remember, politicians don't sit in BECs and BAC, we just take the flak for it.
Right.
Based on the officials that are now popularly known as Royval 5, they sat at a BEC. They then decided this is the best company to move forward with.
And sorry, just I hope you don't mind me interrupting. These are municipal employees. These aren't
City of
politicians.
Tshwane. City of Tshwane. So politicians,
and these are
in
people
terms
that were there before the DA-led coalition. They were sitting in their position.
So in terms of the MFMA, politicians don't go anywhere near supply chain.
Right.
Of course, it doesn't stop some of them to do it. But in terms of the legislation, I don't know what is happening at the procurement space. Now, these officials, they sat at a BEC. They decided to recommend this company to BAC. The approval, the appointment gets approved. And fast forward, we then realize that this company doesn't have the financial muscle that you need to do the work. Sorry, they don't have the expertise. Fast forward to now. Remember, now we know based on the forensic report.
Which came out when?
It was commissioned in 2022.
So in other words, this was uncovered in the previous mayoralty.
Yes, 2022,
Right.
we as Action SA called for the forensic report.
Okay.
But remember, the tender was terminated in 2019 because of poor performance of the contractor.
Who terminated that?
The city of Tshwane. Obviously, there's a process that will go through the head of department. So then the contract was terminated then. But obviously, they had started working on site. And they left, which is what the DBSA had to finish off as phase 1 now, that is now concluded, finishing off the work of that contractor. So basically, that's the story of the Royval wastewater treatment plant.
The thing I'm trying to get to over here is that the whole Royval debacle got dropped by our friend Michael sitting in that very chair, saying it was the DA that did it. Now, I don't know, when one follows the steps, how the treatment plant broke, how the Edwin Sodi and his mates were given the tender by officials that were clearly friendly towards Edwin Sodi, let's use those terms, right? How this becomes the fault of the DA. It's not like I'm trying to defend him, I'm just trying to be fair here. Because it seems like if there's anybody to blame, firstly, let's blame the people that broke it and did nothing for 12 years, i.e. the ANC, or let's blame the officials that put a corrupt tenderpreneur on the job who didn't do the job, right? So, all I'm saying is, I think you're doing a hell of a job, but let's be fair on blaming the people that, whose fault is Royval.
Yeah, first of all, you are blaming me for things I've not said
to
you.
you. I said
no, I'm saying
the
terms. Yes, yeah. But here's the thing, Mike. Between us as the public representatives and the residents, they don't know officials. They know us because we are the ones who went to campaign.
Yep.
And
your
said, we need your vote. And then when we are elected as mayor, I don't say, do you know there's Johan Metler as the city manager? I say, residents of Tshwane, I'm now your executive mayor.
Right.
I represent you.
Yeah.
So then I become synonymous with Tshwane.
Yeah.
And so whatever good is happening in Tshwane, I get the credit. When something wrong happens in Tshwane, I get to be blamed. And that's just the nature of it. We understand how behind the scenes things work, where you can say, and for me, I'm not defending what happened between, that's why I'm saying to you, the story of Royval must be traced back to 2004.
Yes.
And I'm trying to assist to say maybe the reason why DA is getting the national attention on the issue, this is what happened. But I'm saying the things, for instance now, yesterday there's an activist from Tshwane who said, Mayor Moya, go to Hamanskraal, the water is dirty, and they are not saying where are the engineers, because I'm the one who is representing the residents. They know me as the executive mayor. So that's how we have done it, that with all the wrongs that have happened in government, we don't look for the DG in the presidency. We say the president has failed. Yes.
Okay, so let's say, for example, the call you got yesterday to say there's a problem at the Royval plant. If it goes wrong, would the DA be fair to say, under Action SA, they've broken the Royval water treatment plant? Would that be fair to say or no?
If that's how they interpret it, yes.
Okay. So, in other words, the interpretation that the DA did it is fine. Even though they didn't break it, appoint the person, they, in fact, were the people that uncovered it. I'm just sort of getting the media spin right here.
No, the thing is, I'm trying to respond to things that I've not said myself. So I'm trying to assist the conversation. That when it comes to so procurement happens without us as politicians, but they happen under your leadership. So the people that you have appointed, the people that are now, whether you appointed them, you were sitting at their interviews or not, the officials of Tshwane, I've not appointed a single one of them, but they are now, I'm responsible for them. And therefore, whatever they do in the name of the city of Tshwane, I'm associated to it. So that's the relationship, unfortunately, that we have, that whenever now you will see all the wrong things that will happen in Tshwane, I will be responsible for it. And residents won't accept it when I say, but I was in here when the funded budget, the unfunded budget was approved, I was in here. They don't care. What they know is that there is a person who said to us, I'm your executive mayor, and therefore sort all our problems. And that's just the nature of it.
Now, we noticed that well done once you became mayor. Suddenly the Department of Water took an interest in the Royval water treatment plant. Right?
That's not correct.
Not correct?
Yes.
I'm very happy to be correct.
Yes. So the project was launched in April.
Right.
Not recently.
Right.
So when it was launched in April, obviously it's an intervention to supplement the areas that are supposed to be supplied through the Royval wastewater treatment plant. So they now have to be supplied through this package plant that is built at Klipdrift. It was launched in April, and the former mayor was there. I was there as the deputy mayor. The former minister, Senzo Mchunu, was there. So it didn't only start now. I just wanted to correct that. It was launched in April before the change of power. Yes.
But suddenly the Royval water treatment plant starts producing water that's potable.
The Klipdrift, the intervention. So it came with a schedule. So when it was launched in April, the first module, so it's divided into 4 modules, supposed to be 50 megaliters in total, and each module is 12.5 megaliters. The first one initially was supposed to be September 2024, followed by the second one end of Feb, end of April, end of June. End of June, all the areas that have been without clean water for the past 2 decades, they're supposed to get their clean water. The project was delayed, by the way. From September, we only provided clean water in January. There were reasons that that were could not have been foreseeable or avoided. But that aside, it was delayed. And so it's not that there was all of a sudden, now that Nasiphi is the mayor, now let's move. No. In fact, it was delayed. And it was one of the discomforts that we had, that we've promised these residents to say, after 20 years, you're going to get clean water. Now we're starting communicating delays. However, we had to go to the residents of Hamanskraal and explain what was happening. And I mean, the sentiment and those imbizos would be, we've waited for 20 years. I mean, 2 months is nothing compared to what we've been through. It didn't make it right, but we did explain the reasons for the delays. But no, there was no sudden move just because I was the mayor.
Yeah, because it could appear from the outside, especially if you're as old and cynical as I am.
I see.
That you look at this and you suddenly say, well, the ANC being brought back into power in Tshwane, and suddenly the water department does what they should have done 20 years ago. That's the way it looks, right? And along the way, everybody can blame the DA for the water breaking in the first place, which wasn't the case. I'm saying it looks incredibly suspicious that suddenly the water starts working. Do you know what I mean? After 20 years, oh, sorry, I found the right spanner. It just feels really, really odd. And, it starts begging the question about, is there not some value in purposely sabotaging infrastructure and then whoever takes over from you looks really bad?
That would take a very skilled person,
yes,
to create a 20-year problem just for one opportunity of a mayor to look successful.
Yeah.
It would be a very long and protracted process. I mean, 20 years, that's investment. But I think it's important that, we get lost in the scenario of wanting to take credit or blame each other. The bottom line, Mike, when you are leading in government, your job is to provide services to the people.
Yes.
There's no if and when about it. And so let's remove the politics of it was this one, it was this one. The bottom line, the people of Hamanskraal have been without water for 2 decades. And the leaders, because it was their job, they started talking to each other to resolve the issue of Hamanskraal. Now, should we all now cheerleading for them? No. That was supposed to happen. We are grateful for their wisdom to have that discussion, to say this community cannot suffer more than they've suffered before. So each and every one of us even the person, if I get removed next week, whoever comes in must make sure that the water to the residents of Hamanskraal is delivered clean and drinkable. then we can deal with party politics and politics, but let's not lose sight to say that community have suffered for 2 decades without clean water. Now we are getting lost in who's to blame, who's to take credit. That's not the most important one.
Well, it's not the most important thing, but it plays a very big factor because reputations are ruined along the way. When a problem that could have been fixed quite clearly any time in the last 20 years suddenly gets fixed when the desirable people are in charge.
Which is not correct. As I said, the project was launched when former Mayor Brink was the mayor.
Okay. And
it's not true.
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
So
as much as,
we can at least acknowledge that.
No one has ever denied the facts. I'm not in a business of spinning facts. The pictures are there.
Yeah.
In April, I was there as the deputy mayor. He was there as the mayor, alongside the minister, the MECs, and everyone. So there's no contestation about the facts. Hence, for me, I'm saying to you, everyone who's come, whether as a mayor or the MMC for utilities, they've come understanding that when you get into that space, the issue, you inherit the issue of Hamanskraal water, and you must do something about it. And I think all of us will be judged by what was your contribution in getting, the issue of the Hamanskraal water crisis resolved.
Because the danger here, of course, is that people who could fix it, slow walk it, right? Really, that's what I'm saying. Because I understand eventually people die of cholera and it's collateral damage. They're poor people. Who gives a shit, right? That's kind of the South African attitude, right, from national government. But if one looks, for example, at the Western Cape, where safety and security is a national competency, and we've got a massive crime problem, gang problem, murder problem in the Western Cape. And there you've got the national Minister of Police cutting the number of policemen in the place with the highest murder rate in the country. It starts looking like there's an attempt to make it look bad, worse than what it, So in other words, you could stop this by making your police do their work. But it suits the political agenda to allow children to get shot in townships.
Whose political agenda?
The people who aren't in power in the Western Cape. I'm just saying, we're using very blunt instruments to make, we're playing with people's lives here. Because we've got this problem of national competency in a local setting, right?
Yes.
Water is a national competency. Safety and security is a national competency. You can go and start your own police force. But who looks like they can't control the water in Tshwane or the crime in the Cape Flats? Do you understand what I mean?
Yeah, I appreciate where you're coming from, and it is our reality as local government. We've known it, the design of, even in the Constitution, to say with the 3 spheres, the one that's closest to the people. Obviously, we are closest to the problems, whether it's provincial or national competency.
Yeah.
And also, we also appreciate that IGR has not worked as it's supposed to work. I can't speak for Western Cape, but I do believe that there are problems that are easier to or to resolve before they get out of hand. And also, for instance, in Tshwane, together with the Ekurhuleni and Joburg, the Minister of Police in October has then come to us with this model of cooperative agreement, where the Metro Police, together with the provincial community safety and SEPs, that we work together. And I'm just saying that I understand all of the frustration to say, I wish the powers were given to me so that I can do what I can do with them. And I'm talking from a governance perspective, not which party the minister comes from, which premier, which party the premier comes from. That we understand how the spheres are set up in the Constitution, there are schedules that tell us which one is your competency, but also it says that we are interconnected as spheres. So I think we need more maturity with leaders, that they are able to sit around the table like they did with the issue of the Klipdrift package plant, that between a national government and an executive mayor, they can discuss and come up with a solution. Yeah. So, but you know what? When you're looking at it from a, party's point of view to say which party is being blamed here, I mean, it looks like how it looks. But
no, because, it's the old Rottweiler syndrome. I go and buy a Rottweiler in the hope of it biting somebody else, but it can also bite me. Because, we're running perilously close to a time where negative incentives are there. So in other words, if you are a party that has say over a national issue, a national competency, you just slow walk it in the area that you don't have control to make them look inept, right? You can do it. You can take Hamanskraal and tell them, sorry, no water for 20 years, get rid of the mayor. Do you understand what I mean? I'm saying and I'm not pointing a finger at you, I'm pointing a finger at other people that run those national competencies. Because quite clearly they could have fixed that dam up many times over 20 years, right?
Along with many other things.
But they're making specific cities suffer for their political choices.
Well, I can't comment on your interpretation.
Okay, so let's move on to the next thing.
Yes. You've made me answer for things I've not said. So, yes.
That's what I tend to do. Sorry
that's cool.
But let's talk about the second part you said was Hamanskraal water. We've dealt with that. You said that you weren't satisfied in your previous coalition with the services that were being provided for townships. Where was the failure? What was happening? What wasn't happening that was meant to happen? What is happening now?
The services were not going to the townships. That's what was not happening. So here's the thing. It was easy to justify not providing services because you can always say there's no money.
Right.
And what we have found in the past 3 months, you can work around it.
How?
Like we have done.
What did you do?
Which is to do more with the less that you have and rely a lot on officials to do their job.
Right.
And be with them. And every day I wake up, whatever hour I wake up on, and make sure that when officials are doing their work, I must monitor them so I can know exactly where the weaknesses are.
Yes.
I have decided as the executive mayor, and luckily the MECO members, my colleagues, have bought into my approach, at least for the beginning, to say we are a big institution with about 23,000 permanent employees. Are we getting the value out of the 30% of the budget that is going to those salaries? What is it that we need? But what we also realize is that we underestimate the changes and the impact of the political changes that it has on officials. Some, they get demoralized. Some, they take advantage of the fact that, Nasiphi can say this today. In 6 months' time, she will be changed, and the new mayor will come in and won't know what Nasiphi has said. And so we then said, let's not treat people with suspicion until they prove us otherwise. Let's get into let's go to the communities, let's go to the ground, let's join the officials in the work that they do so they can see that we are with them. When it comes to the financial resources, there's no money that is going to magically come up. We then said to the colleagues, be creative and prioritize which services that residents can't live without. And so there's been a lot of focus in terms of the frontline services. We've dealt with the backlogs in terms of the street lights, for instance. In the space of 3 months, we were able to restore over 21,000. It's not even a fraction of the total amount that needs to be restored. But we needed to start elsewhere.
Did you perhaps steal them from Johannesburg? Because we got none.
I wish you can tell me where to get them. I can take them home. I can take them home. And so we deal with the frontline services in a way to say colleagues, there won't be money. Can you be creative about how you empower your teams to do their work? Can you manage them?
Okay.
Because we know we've got a force. How are we utilizing the force? So I think for us in the first 3 months, we were more on the kindness side to say, we support you, please go do it. In the process, we're monitoring to say, is it possible that you can rely primarily on the force and not service providers which need money, which we don't have. But secondly, it was an issue of the infrastructure that we have. Water and electricity. I'm not even being, fancy here. Water, electricity, and roads. What is it that we can do? And unfortunately, we started in October, and November we were hit with the water crisis. You also in Joburg were hit with the water crisis.
We've been hit with every crisis. But I'm going to tell you something. That the mayor of Johannesburg, he's my favorite politician. Because he's the only guy who's ever said something that's absolutely honest. He became mayor and he said, I'm not going to do anything for 2 years. And he's been good for his word. He promised to do nothing and he's done nothing. So to our mayor, Dada Moreira, I've got to give you a shout out for being true to your word. You've done nothing. And that's just from a Johannesburg resident. Anyway,
yes. So in Tshwane, we did it slightly different.
Yes.
That we had areas that we knew were were pressure points for us. Lodium, Atteridgeville, Soshanguve, Mabopane, Mamelodi, Bronkhorstspruit. And we then worked with Rainwater. And we basically said to the teams, you're not leaving the Atteridgeville reservoir until you resolve the issue. Voila, it was a resolved question, and maybe they're walking it slow. Like, well, what took you so long? We did the same in Lodium. We went to Soshanguve Tower, same approach. We did the same in Mabopane, the illegal connections. We need to deal with that, but we're fine for now. Mamelodi, we're dealing with the last part of it, but the reservoirs are healthy. So there was a targeted intervention because we knew where the pressure points are. Same as the substations. We know which substations are giving us problems. And we started, upgrading with a little money. And what we do, Mike, is not even this sophisticated approach to say, we understand there's money here, but which one do we need more? Because the most, do we need whatever it is, or water or electricity? And we say, listen, move money to water and electricity. Hence, we were able to even, because to upgrade substations that support businesses. We're saying for us as the city, we can't afford any business leaving our city, not on the basis that you don't give us water and electricity. So we made the commitment that the big business in our city that give jobs to people's sons and daughters there, they're not going to leave. If they leave, it's because it's their choice and it's got nothing to do with the municipality. So we then made sure that the teams were creative, and we use internal teams. For the Roslyn Automotive Industrial, we upgraded the Roslyn substation. For the Waterloo Industrial, we stay at 80% in terms of the N4 power line that we've upgraded. And those are the targeted interventions, because remember, for us, as this administration, we needed to say to residents and business in Tshwane, we mean well. And this is how we prove it to you. Because when we started, business was unsettled. Like, what does it mean for us? Will anything change? And it was important to say, in addition to sitting with them in the boardroom, what do we do so that they are comfortable where they are? And now business, we do have an open relationship with business because of that. The bottom line is that you must do what you must do. There's no opting out. And so the water crisis, we're almost there. We don't have money, but we've got teams and they are skilled, and we just need to make sure they got the support to make things happen. And so that has been our approach. But what has been helping us as well, because for us, we obviously, with coalitions, you can't say, I got the mandate directly from the people, because the mandate we give each other at a council level, where you say, if we combine these political parties, will I get the mandate? And we take it for granted that those who voted for our various parties will be fine with it. And so we then said, let's go talk to the people. I said to the colleagues when we were discussing it, the first time residents will hate us because they will say, but we're paying rates and taxes and you're doing nothing about it. I said, but with the second time we come to them to tell them what we are doing to try to address their concerns, they will hate us less. The third time we come, they may just like us. And so between the month of November and January, we had 14 imbizos across the city, across the 7 regions, suburbs, townships, informal settlements. We had stakeholder, engagements with faith-based organization, business, just to say this is who we are, but can we hear from you as well? What is it that you want us to do? But can we be honest about the state in which your city is in? And what is it that we are trying to do to get over that? And we were well received as the first instance. I think it's going to depend on what we do based on what we have said and engaged the residents based on. That will then give us that kindness to be prolonged to the next time that we go back to them.
Now, you've been very hands-on and very visible, and really well done on that, on leading the charge. And as you said, you've been keeping an eye on people to make sure that they're doing their jobs. But you're employing people whose job it is to do that. So what happens to those people who weren't doing that job that they're paid to do?
So that's not only your assessment. The AG report confirms what you're just saying.
So how many people have you fired?
67.
Okay.
Yeah, but it was for other reasons, not poor performance.
Right.
So one of the things that for us we need to do is to look at the root causes that have led the city of Tshwane municipality to be on its knees, because that's where it is now. There's no institution there.
If the city of Tshwane is on its knees, what is Johannesburg? But anyway, it's a separate one.
I think I should get Mayor Morero here for you.
Sure. You've got no chance of that. But anyway, good luck.
Yes. So because what an institution our size, and it's not that it has not been done before, that for the longest time, City of Tshwane in terms of, and we trust AG, that process, because it gets to objectively assess the strength of your institution, right? And your governance and your practices and everything. Now, there's an adverse finding 3 years ago, improvement to a qualified, but qualified comes back with material findings that have been reduced, but there are repeats and returning findings. But then at the center of it, AG then says to us, it's not me. You've got 5 root causes that you must look out for, and this will shock you. We don't have SOPs. I mean, seriously. No. We don't have record management.
Right.
Our internal controls are weak. Our oversight, whether it's the political oversight or executive oversight or legislative oversight, it's weak, that it can't detect when things go wrong. And the 5th one is that there is lack of competence in our management to discharge their performance and financial responsibilities. This is what AG is telling us, right? And so where we need to start is then to say, we can't say we're going to fix the material findings. We must start with the root causes. And that's exactly where we're starting, to say the first question that we asked after getting the presentation from AG, because we got a presentation on a Friday afternoon. The next Friday, we started with saying, so what do we do? Because I think for me, what is important, let's draw the line in the sand and say, as long as we have this responsibility, we're not going to allow certain things to happen. And then we started. Then one of the questions we asked, you can have SOPs, you can have your internal controls, but if your management is not capable of, one, developing SOPs that make sense, implement them, overseeing them, and managing people who are doing the work, you might as well pack and go home. Mm-hmm. So can we then start by saying, what does it mean that people with master's degrees and 20 years of experience lack competency to discharge their responsibilities? What does it mean? And then we ask, is there a skills audit that was done on our management? The answer is yes. I don't know how long it's been, and say, what have you done about it? Because obviously, I don't know where the disconnect is. So that's number one. Number two, we've got forensic. So where the day that I was elected, the VF plus caucus leader then says, yeah, Mayor, you are now elected. Can you deal with the backlog of 1,000 forensic investigations that have not been implemented? Now, we're talking about forensic investigation that goes back to 2012 or even before 2012. That is now on my desk. And on that list, there are senior managers that whose, the forensic investigations were about them, right? And you can see that there's been no action. If I inherit forensic investigations that span back to 2012, I mean, how many mayors have been there that have not worked on it? So it's not only that people have done things wrong, but there have been a response to the wrongdoing that was happening in the city. So through the consequence management committee that obviously the AG would recommend to say, one of your issues is that you do not have a consequence management culture among many other cultures, including performance, accountability, all the cultures that will make this institution work, right? And so one of the things then I did, because I've been a senior official in the city, it's not that I'm not aware of how the city works. I then met the chairpersons of the external committees, so our APC that, the risk management, and then the financial disciplinary board. I met them early December. It's important for me because these are people that are helping us to build the institution. And the APC chair is one man who does not mince his words. When things are going wrong, he'll tell you, listen, you guys are on the wrong path. This is what we think based on our expertise you must do. So meeting them, I knew that these are people going to help me. But what bothered me was the chairperson of the Financial Disciplinary Board telling me he started work January 2024, where in December 2024, he's never received a single referral. What they've been busy with all along was debating whether FDB can, because their responsibility is to investigate financial misconduct on senior management. But there was a difference of views to say no, but other officials as well. So apparently this is what kept them busy the whole of 2024. But as I speak now, 70 referrals have been made to the FDB to investigate. I'm just waiting for the report from the FDB chairperson so I can take them to council. So when you then ask, what have you done about it? I think in the 3 months, I have demonstrated, and I've repeated it openly, not only to the MACO, to the senior management. One, I'm not going to make you do any wrong things. I will never call you to ask for a tender. I'll never call you to release a car from the pound because my friend has been caught on the side. So that's number one. That's my commitment. Secondly, I will not look away when something wrong is being done and I know about it. And therefore, end of January, we were en route to council to recommend a disciplinary process against one of the senior managers. He resigned on our way there because upon his appointment, he misrepresented his CV. Now, people can accuse me and say, you are purging. Question is, was I supposed to look away? And isn't that what is wrong with the city right now? That people have maybe thought this is not what I'm supposed to be doing. But here is the thing. When you have a manager that is not doing what they're supposed to be doing, the person who suffers is not Nasiphi. It's the residents that pay rates and taxes and they expect service in return. And so we then had to say, in many instances in these 100 days, to say, who do I choose here? Do I choose my colleague or I choose the residents? And it's a difficult choice, it seems to others, but it's the default choice is that you must always choose the residents. And so that's what has been happening. But there's a lot of work, Mike, that needs to happen to change the culture of the organization. Where you have people who are not scared and who are so comfortable and so brazen. Someone made an example, for instance, there was a strike, an unprotected strike for 3 months in the city. And it had its cost, like severe cost. And primarily was the issue that services were not going to the people because the employees were striking, without getting into the merit of what's happening. Now, we then look at, now I'm curious, the report of the strike. And you then asked, so there were employees that were dismissed. From which departments? Then the departments are listed. But there are departments that are not listed there. And I'm asking, how is it possible that these departments didn't have anyone striking? It's because the management was too scared to take on their employees in their departments. So there is that culture that needs to be corrected. But also against my personality of being impatient, I think on this one, I need to make sure that I slow down, do the right thing, support the accounting officer and management. But the bottom line, what is clear now is that we can't continue the way we are in the city.
Yeah. So now, Mayor Moya, you have done some of the most amazing work. So do you feel that you would be able to change that culture? How long do you think it would take to change that culture?
I think at this point, and I'm not talking because I'm an optimistic person generally, we are at a point, Mike, where it must change, right? That's the first point. And we must then be empowered to say what are the correct decisions to take to change it. Hence, I rely a lot on other people to counsel me, whether it's the colleagues from AG, National Treasury, province sometimes, like, guys, are we on the right track? Or these chairpersons that I'm talking about to say, APC chair, if we do this, do you think we will help resolve that problem? So firstly, it must change. How long it's going to take? An institution as big as ours, it's going to take a while. But I think what is important is that you must have a mixed approach. Those who are already doing the right thing, you must encourage and support them and only deal with those that are doing wrong things. So I think the biggest mistake would make is to have a blanket approach and assume everyone in the city is doing wrong things. It's not true. I've met the most committed officials of the city. I've worked with them. I have seen them in the past 12 months. So we've got a lot of good men and women who just want to wake up, go to work and do their work. All they need when they're at work, give me PPE, give me a computer, give me stationery, and I'll do the work and I'll be creative in the work that I do. But I'm saying it's not a coincidence that AG has given us the root causes that they are. There's something they saw that obviously we didn't pick up. And so it's going to take a while, maybe 2 to 3 years, to start feeling that now the culture is changing. The unfortunate part is that I now only know that I have, if I'm lucky, up until end of 2026. And therefore, the changes that we make, they must be institutionalized. It can't be feelings and my character that defines them. They must have the residents of Tshwane, the institution that we want to build. And one of the things I've asked the administration to do is to review our vision. It's not coming out clearly. And you can tell, in 2016, there was a vision 2055, and everyone rallied against this vision. Not against it, for this vision. And I said, maybe it's time that even when we craft this vision for 2030 short term, we then consult officials as well and just bring them in, because we're good at bringing residents in, but we're leaving the people who make these things happen. That we must have a very clear vision for the city that is shared among ourselves as politicians, but also with officials, to say, this is what we envision for the city of Tshwane. What do we need to do to get there? And I'm not talking about a vision that's going to 12 months to craft. Talking about a review of what you already know and say, short term, what is it that we want? And then use that to anchor all of us, to say we're working towards the same vision. and then start dealing with the basics. Issue of performance management. Every employee of the city that gets a salary, they must be able to be asked, you're supposed to change a bulb. Did you change the bulb? No. Why not? Was it malicious, or is because you didn't have resources, and get assessed on that basis? So something is supposed to be as simple as that must be done. When someone has done something right, we must be able to reward that person, incentivize, celebrate them. When they've done something wrong, depending on what they've done, we must act on them. And so those are the things that, but they don't depend on me as an individual. The management must come now and help us, because that's their responsibility.
But it suits management. The easiest solution is to get rid of Mayor Moya.
It may be.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, you know, we need to protect these things. Now, I just want to ask a question, because you're clearly a patriot. But you must feel terribly let down when you look above you, because you talk about cultures. You know, we see the state, we see cabinet ministers, people that will not do the most basic work. We see the debacle of our soldiers getting killed because people, you know, very highly paid people with more blue lights than what we can imagine, who won't do their work. Do you think that's where our problem stems from? The fact that we've got people up at the top that will not set a decent example to the people at the lower levels?
Can I answer you this way, Mike? So I'm now on in my late 30s.
Me too.
I can see. That's why I'm comfortable talking to you. The 1994 vote happened when I was 6 years old. And I spent the first 9 years of my schooling under democracy in a mud school. From there, I went to a very rough township school in Philippi in Cape Town. And then I worked my way up even under those circumstances. And help didn't come to rural schools or township schools very easily, by the way. And I just happened to be lucky that my parents could push me to push my talents, right? I then get to university, work my ass off. Sorry, I don't know if that's allowed.
Yes.
Oh, sorry. Yes, I did. Do you know that I struggled for 3 years to get a job? I studied political science. And I could not be employed anyway because I had no connections. And so I'm one of the aggrieved South Africans that say, if I wasn't lucky that one person saw my CV and got me an opportunity, it had to be luck after working so hard. And I'm not the only one. And that's my grievance about our leaders. Hence, for me, I say, I don't care how mayors are supposed to do it. I won't do it that way. I will do it in the way that I think the citizens of this country will appreciate. So someone earlier asked, don't you think you should be more in the office? I'm saying politicians are sitting in the offices. They don't know what is happening out there. They're making decisions based on reports on paper. That means absolutely nothing most of the time. That the decisions that we have taken, that I have taken, if I tell you that Jakey's Road in Winterveld is being fixed, it's because I've been there and I saw cars having to go zigzag for years. And no one knew that Jakey's was a problem because people were sitting in offices. So the culture of this country must change. We have people who may care more about themselves than they care about what they're supposed to be working for. And maybe I heard one of the ministers talking about conscription. And I'm saying you use it so loosely. Yeah. But also what is wrong is not with us ordinary South Africans. It's those who are in power who forget that their job is to look after the rest of us as ordinary South Africans. So the issue of culture, where you have people, when we were growing up, we knew that we made jokes about home affairs, how they close at a certain time. If you go to public clinics where we were going, the nurses will shout at magogos, and that's the culture that a public servant has been selling to this country, that if you don't have medical aid, you deserve to be yelled at by a nurse in a public clinic. Whether you can justify to say they're under pressure, whatever, but that's what we as poor people grow up knowing, that if you are poor, you're going to be subjected to these things because government is paying for it, you're not paying for it. The bottom line is that as South Africans, we must also start being smart about how we use the only power that we have, because the system is designed. We have a heavily politicized system in South Africa. Even business must understand politics. Now, that right was earned. In 1994, when it was a good thing to happen for us. But I think along the way, people have been relaxed that they don't follow up on their vote. And it's 5 years. So maybe it's difficult to follow up in a space of 5 years when you're busy building your own life as well. But I think with every nastiness that I've seen on Twitter the past 2 days, I do think that as South Africans, we need to define for ourselves what is it that we need, and then decide who is going to help us get there. And so we can't excuse some decisions that people make along the way. If they cost them, then they cost them. But the culture of this country must change to work for the citizens of this country. That's my take.
Ladies and gentlemen, she can't drop the mic because it's attached to the table. But quite clearly, what we need in South Africa is more competent, responsible, well-qualified people in key positions. And we got one in Mayor Dr. Nasiphi Moya in Tshwane. I live down the road in Johannesburg, which is Gotham City. The lights don't work. The traffic lights don't work. Potholes everywhere. Mayor who says he's going to do nothing and does nothing. Place where people get blown up in the streets because of lack of service delivery. When we vote, we have to vote for competency. And here is a very competent mayor sitting in front of me, Dr. Nasiphi Moya. Thank you so much. We are sponsored by Pace Car Rental. Please go and rent a car there and get a discount using our SONA code. Thank you so much for joining us today. To everybody that watched it, please subscribe to the State of the Nation channel. We'll see you again soon. Thank you.